Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Practical Project Management for Software Developers. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Satyarth Gaur, Senior Consultant, Wells Fargo India Solutions Bangalore. Satyarth is currently working as a Senior Consultant at Wells Fargo India Solutions Bangalore. He has almost 7 years of strong experience in design, development and implementation of Java and J2EE applications. He has experience of working in challenging Java projects for big MNCs as well as small startups in India and USA. He has done his bachelor's in technology in computer engineering from National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, and executive MBA from Institute of Technology and Management, Bangalore. He has also completed executive courses in financial management and project management from leading American universities. His last assignment was with Dell Perot Systems, Bangalore as a senior consultant. In the past job, he got the chance to work for the prestigious UID project of Government of India as a senior Java consultant for application security. He has also plans to soon launch one of its kind Dr. Java Clinic in Bangalore. Most affordable and highly useful and practical mass seminars on complex Java and J2EE topics. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Gaur.
Hi friends, I hope you can hear me. Without any delay, we will start with the agenda for today. So the topic is practical project management for software developers. Okay, I hope everybody can see the screen, the first slide. So the topic or the agenda for today is practical project management for software developers. Why it is practical? See, today the scenario is changed. We do not need the conventional MBA project management knowledge or the PMP knowledge nowadays because of the dynamics. The market dynamics are like that. We have to be very practical all the time. We have to be up on our toes. We have to use our common sense. See, research has proved that most of the projects which fail in India and South Asia are because of lack of common sense and basic practices. The basic hygiene, what we say. It's not about the lack of PMP knowledge or the lack of MBA and project management degree. It's nothing like that. So without any further delay, we will start with the first slide. See, to determine the health of any IT project, what is the health of any IT project? Suppose you go to a doctor. Doctor does a diagnosis of you. He gets to the root cause of the problem. That is the root cause analysis. Then the doctor gives you some medicines, or he may also recommend some tests for you. Same way, the health of a project. It may be in a good shape. A project may be in a bad shape, or it may be just neutral, doing satisfactory. So to determine the health of a project, you do not need any MBA in project management or any PMP or any high profile degrees. See, as a developer, because I was also a developer, now basically I am a technical lead. So we always have few things in our mindset. So one is whenever we write a program, we think about the space complexity and the time complexity. Means whatever I am doing, the coding, I should occupy the least memory resources and my execution time should be least. So the performance and the efficiency and the speed should be high and the quality should be high. These are the key things whenever any developer works or starts to build up a code. These are the things in his mind. But do you want to be a developer throughout your life? No. You have to understand the project dynamics and the project health also. Whatever I am coding, that should lead to good health of the project, overall health. So, lot of metrics have been written in the books and in conventional websites. So we need not go through all the metrics and waste our time and energy. So I have come across three most important metrics and I have changed the matrix. So it's like my own original matrix which I have changed considering different factors. So these are the three basic thumb rule metrics. If you know them, you can always check the status of your project, check the health of a project. With these three metrics, you can always say, my project health is good, bad or neutral. It's very easy, very fast. So what is the first metric? Performance ratio. See, what is the performance ratio? Effort spent in resolving existing bugs plus effort spent in adding a new feature or an enhancement to your project or a software. Sum of these two variables divided by E. What is E? The total time spent or the total efforts. So here we realize that most of the time when we do a project, we encounter a lot of bugs in the testing phase or even after deployment. The client may not be satisfactory. Client will find some bug which we might not have found. That is a possibility. So we need to correct the bug, or first we have to find the bug, diagnose it and then correct it. Then the market dynamics are nowadays that client keeps on changing his requirement every month. It can happen. See, client is paying to you. If he changes the requirement, if he adds the new requirement, you cannot say my software or my project is not extensible, or I cannot add a new feature. So lot of time or effort is spent in the terms of man hours in finding a bug, correcting an existing bug or adding new features. So total efforts in these two things, bug correction and addition of features, divided by the total actual effort. See, the client has given you say 1 year. So your E is like 1 year. Total time you have 1 year. In that you have to do bug fixing, enhancements, everything and give the final product. So if the ratio is smaller, it is a better, means the team is having a better performance. See, it's not only about the project performance. What is the product? It is because of the team efforts. If the team is more efficient, the efforts in resolving the existing bugs and in adding a new feature is very less. Means you have made the software in such a way that you can add a new feature with minimum efforts. It is a modular software. It is extensible. So your performance ratio is high. Means the team is performing well, the project is performing well. And remember, to find out a bug, you have to always assign a bug priority. Suppose you have 100 bugs. Now your aim is that effort spent in resolving the existing bugs should be minimum. Now there are 100 existing bugs. You have to give the bug priority. See, every bug has a risk. Like to resolve a bug, it may lead to more new bugs. Every bug has a severity, high, low, medium. And there is an effort to resolve every bug. So there is a formula for bug priority which you can use so that your effort is spent in resolving the bugs is the minimum. So this is the performance ratio, one of the ratios to check your team performance and your project performance. So if you have coded your project well using all the best practices, this ratio will be very small. The second most practical ratio in software industry is the quality ratio. See, without quality, everything will be rejected. So what is a code quality ratio, or simply a quality ratio? Number of defects before the UAT plus number of defects after the UAT divided by the number of defects before UAT. So this ratio should be close to 1. It can be 1, 1.1, 1.05, 1.2, like that. These values are a good value which indicate your code quality is high, ratio is high. So this ratio should be close to 1. Suppose my quality ratio is like 1.8 or 2. It's not a good signal. Because my aim should be, I should code in such a way that there should be least possibility of defects in my code, whether it is UAT or after UAT. And UAT is what? User acceptance testing. Because I am developing a project for the user. For me, the project is fine, but for the user, if it is not fine, it is a waste. So we should make sure that before the UAT, everything is well tested and bug free to the best of our ability. third most important ratio in software industry, and the most practical one, is stability ratio. See, your code should be stable. Suppose you write a code. I am a project manager or a technical architect or a project lead. I have 10 team members. Now my 5 team members are good in coding. They follow all the best practices and they write a code with a very clean way. But the other 5 may not do in the same way. So suppose if I am doing a code review, peer-to-peer review or a tech lead review. So after the review I find lot of changes in their code. Lot of modifications is needed to improve the quality of their code. Maybe I have to reduce the number of lines in their code. I have to remove some redundant data. I have to remove some invalid code. I have to use a better, say, design pattern or whatever. So the thing is that this ratio should be very small, close to 0 to 0.01 or 0.02 or maybe 0.1. This indicates a better stable. My code is stable. Means my team has written the code in such a way that even if I review the code 100 times, very few lines of code will be modified. So most of the code is stable. And more the code is stable, the less chances are for bugs. Here LOC indicates the number of lines of code. So if my team has done the coding in such a way that after all the reviews, lead review, peer-to-peer review, architect review, the minimum number of lines of code is modified. It is a healthy scenario. My project is healthy. So these 3 ratios which I discussed are applicable for a lead, developer, manager. Everybody should look into these 3 ratios and then they can get a signal, green signal or red signal, whether the project health is good or health is bad. Now after discussing these 3 really practical metrics, we will see some practical tips and tricks for successfully completing an IT project. See, to complete an IT project, you need not follow all the project management book of knowledge, guidelines and other conventional tips and tricks. Because the market dynamics are like that, the requirements are constantly changing. Okay, even your team may not be stable, somebody may resign in your team, these things can happen. Okay, and the number of modules may increase, customer may increase, give additional requirements every month. So as a manager or a lead or an architect, you should always visualize the entire system in your mind and understand 2 things for every module. Remember, a project is what or a project is what? It consists of some modules, say 100 modules. Now think that for each module, say X, how many other modules are using this X? And second scenario, how many modules this X module is using? I will repeat once again. There are how many modules which are using X, and X is using how many other modules? It's a bidirectional relationship. If you understand this relationship for every module, you can control the project health. Then project scope will be in your control. You can understand the interaction between different modules and your life will be simplified. Complexity will reduce. So most of the times we don't understand this and we start coding one module and then realize, oh, this module is using 10 other modules. So this picture should be there in your mind for every module. You can write a use case diagram or a ER diagram or whatever artifacts you can use. But you should understand these 2 scenarios. Second tip is prioritizing the features of any IT project or a software or a product in terms of business value. See, I am a triple MBA from IIM plus MBA from Harvard. Okay, so I am writing a product not for myself but for the client. I am not developing the features for my value. It is for the client's business value. So I have to put myself in the shoes of the customer and I have to realize the pain or the problem faced by the customer and then dedicate my concentration to those features which are more valuable to the client. not for me, myself. Okay, I am not writing the project for my use, it is for the client's use. Suppose I have 10 features. The feature number 1 has the most business value. It is like 80% of the value, and the rest 9 features hold 20% of the value. I can use the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule, and I can concentrate my time and energy and focus first on the feature number 1 because it holds the maximum business value. So always keep this thing in the mind. Think from the customer's perspective. Second is, see, as a good manager or as a good architect, we should try to get some warning signals or the future possibilities or the future difficulties or complexities which my project can face. See, right now everything looks fine for the first 1 year, but am I giving 1 year solution to the client? If I am doing that, I am not a good project manager at all, no matter how many MBAs I hold. The first thing I have to realize that I have to give a long-term solution to the client. Long-term means say 5 years or 10 years. My product should be stable. So I have to think from the long-term perspective because I have to build a long-term relationship with the client. I have to give a long-term solution always. So I have to sense in the next 5 years or at least in the next 3 years what difficulties or scenarios can come which can break my product or project. So it can be a technical difficulty, technical complexity, or non-technical also, or semi-technical also. The other thing is that once I know the warning signals, then only I should commit on some deadlines. I should never commit something to the client without having a contingency plan. See, in the SDLC, we always say that there should be 5 to 15% buffer time kept for any contingency for the risk management. Because see, anything can happen in the future. The technology I am using might become obsolete. Okay, the tool I am using, the company which developed the tool, the company closes down. Anything can happen, just imagine. So I have to have some disaster recovery contingency plan, say 5 to 10% of my time. And then only I should give some deadlines or commitment to the client. So basically, see, project management is all about common sense. It's not about MBA or PMP. I have seen when I was working in the US, I met MBA from Stanford and Harvard who were doing internship in Bank of America. They said, Satyarth, it's not our MBA knowledge of Stanford or Harvard. It's all common sense. Project management is all common sense. What is MBA? It's common sense. What is software engineering? It's all common sense. See, by that I mean, why I am using a technology, why I am using a particular way of writing a code, or why I am using a particular process. I should question myself. I should use my common sense. Why I am giving 10 hours to this feature and 1 hour to this, like. So, if we use our common sense, like most of the times, we will be right and correct in our estimate and give the right commitment to the client. Remember one thing. If you really want to be a good architect or a manager or a delivery head, always consult your team before accepting any deadlines from the client. Don't keep your team in the dark. See, if I commit something to the client and then my team members, see, I will not code. My team members are the actual coders and they are saying, sir, this cannot be done in this time. So it leads to conflicts. And this leads to resignations, delays and all those things. So I should always consult all the team members, whether he is a junior or he is a senior. Everybody should be kept in the loop and consulted, and then only client deadlines should be accepted or modified accordingly. See, goals should always be very smart goals, specific, measurable and time bound. The second thing is that, as we all know, without teamwork and delegation, no project can be successful. See, you are not a Superman that you can manage also, you can develop also, you can test also. You need a team. You need to delegate the problems or the functionalities. But what is more important is justified delegation. Most of the time we delegate wrong work to wrong person at the wrong time. So we should do a SWOT analysis of our team, identify the strengths and weaknesses of each of our team members. Maybe I can have a one-to-one meeting if I am the manager. I can know their interest areas. Suppose if one of my team member wants to work in the UI, the other is more comfortable with the database. So I can assign the database portion of work to that team member and the UI portion of work to the other team member. Because maybe a team member is saying, sir, I have already done a similar kind of UI design in my previous company. So I want to take the front end. The other developer is saying, sir, I am more comfortable with the middle tier. So accordingly, assign the right portion of work to the right person at the right time in the right proportion. And then you will be a winner, the real project manager. And because you will get the maximum efficiency from the team. See, if right work is given to me, I will be happy. Then work is not a burden. I can enjoy my work and I will deliver with better results. So remember this justified delegation concept. Just plain delegation is not important, is not enough. Most of the times in IT projects, I will take an example of a government IT project. I will not name it, but it had lot of delays. Why government IT projects get delays? And that may happen with not only government, even with private players. See, because most of the times we are doing the same conventional manual process. Like I want to audit my code, I am doing a manual code review. Whereas nowadays, so many good tools are available for automated code review, automated testing. There are many tools available which can automate 80% of your work, which you do manually nowadays. Okay. So try to automate as many things as possible to reduce the time gap and to reduce the errors also. I am not saying that you automate everything and just remove everybody from the team. See, everything cannot be automated. But nowadays there are so many tools and techniques available from the open source industry. You can use them and automate your work and get and give the product to the client in a lesser time. The client will be more than happy. You have saved his time, and because time is money. As a manager or as an architect, always give equal weightage to all the phases of SDLC. See, even whether it is a mundane task like proof of concept, POC, whether it is coding, code review, bug fixing, rework, re-engineering, installation, deployment, environment creation, creation of build script or test plans. See, I have talked about so many things. Everything has a priority. Even if there is a one weak link, your project will never be successful in long term. Normally as a manager or as an architect, even I as a technical lead, I get carried away. Oh, I have to use this technology, that technology, this server, this technique, this algorithm. Don't get carried away with too much with the coding style. Other phases are also important. Environment creation, analysis, okay, proper review, proper creation of test plans. So don't get carried away too much with hi-fi technologies. Give equal emphasis and divide your work. It's like divide and conquer, the British rule. How the Britishers ran over India. Divide and rule. So always divide the things and focus one at a time and then conquer it. If I am creating a build script, just forget what server, what language I am using. Create on the build script. Focus on that only. So all the activities are important and should be given equal weightage while doing the estimation, while giving the commitment to the client. All the phases should be kept in mind. Always understand the project requirements and try to divide the requirements into functional and semi-functional and non-functional. See, always there are three types of requirements: functional, non-functional or technical, semi-functional or semi-technical. So try to classify the requirements and then visualize each classification at a time. See, if I have 100 requirements, it's difficult to visualize all the 100 at a time. But if I divide them into functional category, non-functional category, it's easy to rule. It's easy to understand the requirements. And remember, if any requirement is not clear, immediately get it verified from the client at the right time. Don't shy away that, okay, I can clarify this requirement because it is a low priority requirement and then I give the commitment to the client, and then I don't meet the commitment in future and have a loss of faith. Even if it is a minor requirement, please clarify the client. I am not saying call the client at 2 p.m. while he is sleeping. Okay, you should maintain a proper communication channel. Maybe write the email to the client. So unless all the requirements are clear, then only give him the commitment. Because today some requirement which is looking like a low priority requirement, it might become a bottleneck in future. Don't underestimate a horse. A horse which is running slow might run very fast. So a small requirement can become a big requirement. Okay. So just clarify all your doubts at the beginning from the client. As a lead or architect, we always try to divide the error scenarios, the exceptions, and the validations into two categories, business and the technical. See, whenever I try to code in my last company when I was in Dell, my architect used this concept. We divided all the exceptions into business exception and technical exception, errors into business error, technical error, validation into business validation, technical validation. By doing this, my life becomes very easy, code complexity is minimized. See, because technical validation and technical errors does not hold much business value, but business errors have a more high priority value for the client. Okay. I'll give an example. Suppose you are doing a data type validation. It can be a technical validation, but you are doing a validation that your password cannot exceed say 7 characters. That is a business validation, business requirement. So always classify and divide your scenarios into business and technical, and then your life will be very easy and you can command your project. You will never be out of scope. So just remember. See, normally we always have a habit that we do the estimation and then we forget it, like do and forget. It's very wrong habit. Please try to revise your estimates. Discuss your estimation. Even if you are the senior manager, discuss with your team members. He may have some idea which you don't get. So always review and revise your estimates from time to time. More or less it should be stable, but it might need some correction, say 2%. Even 2% is important. So, and whenever you do any estimation, always list down all the assumptions, dependencies and constraints in the beginning. See, there is no IT project in the world which does not have any assumptions or dependencies or constraints, technical constraints or any other constraints. Dependencies, it may be dependent on some technology, okay, for which the support is not available say in India. I am developing a software using some technology or tool for which the support is not available only out of India. So that is my dependency. If the support is not there, I cannot work further. So always keep assumptions and dependencies in your mind. It's not that you can list everything in the beginning on day one. You have to constantly revise it. Maybe after 1 month, you can add one assumption more or one dependency more. See, because everything is very dynamic nowadays. So always revise your work. If you are a lead or a manager, always maintain a transparency between the customer, you yourself and your team members. It should not be like that customer wants something, okay, and you understand something and your team members have some other expectations. Always set a feasible expectations to all your team members in the beginning and be very clear what is needed from your team. What happened, I will tell an example in my case. Once I did very good work, but I could not meet the expectation because I was not clear what actually was wanted from me. I am a developer. I thought, okay, X is wanted and I give X, but he wanted Y. So always be very clear as a manager or architect what you want from each of your team member. Okay, set smart goals, set feasible expectations from your team, and always never leave any gap between the client and the team. It should not be that you know 10 things and your team members know only 5 things. Whatever client has told you, you should convey in the easiest format to your team members at the right time. Never keep your team in the dark, because your project is success is because of your team success. Never underestimate the importance of training. See, to save some dollars, I will not go for the training. This is a bad scenario. If my team members, which can be developers or testers, need some additional skill training to enhance their productivity, go and provide them. Because see, if I can invest $100 in the training, they can do their work in say much faster way. They can save 10 days. 10 days saved is like $10,000 saved for the client. So it's a win-win situation. They get additional skills. The team members, they grow in the knowledge. They feel happy. They do their work in the easiest and the fastest possible manner. And the client is also happy. So it's all a win-win situation. The next tip is documentation should be very well written and properly reviewed from time to time and updated. See, it's a very bad practice in Indian IT industry that only business analyst will do the documentation and project manager or architect will review it. No, everybody has the right to see the documentation. Even my junior team member should see the documentation. He can have some tips, some suggestions for improvement. There is always a scope for improvement. So everything should be well documented, and it's not that I do some documentation which one of my team members cannot understand. Whatever is documented should be understandable by all my team members. Then only I can be successful. Because a well written documentation which is reviewed and known to each of my team members, this will reduce the chances of conflicts which I can have with my client in the future. Otherwise my client will say, okay, this was not documented, or this was not I wanted, or my team member can cry, oh, I understood this because it was not in the document, so I did something, I coded something else. So documentation can make or break your project, remember. I'm not saying that spend 30% of your time in documentation. You can be agile, but maintain to the point and concise documentation, to the point. As a manager, always try to monitor and measure your team's performance. Say, when I am the manager, if I become the manager, I will do it for every 2 to 3 weeks. You can do in every 1 month. Okay, don't interfere in your team's work, but secretly, I will say, in like a background process, try to see what your team is doing and monitor their performance without causing any interference in their work. And then try to resolve the issues on time. Suppose if one of my team members is not performing well, I can maybe delegate his piece of work to somebody else and exchange the work. Give him a low complexity work, give the higher complexity work to a team member who is performing better than him. Because see, nowadays it's very difficult to remove a team member and hire a new team member. So I have to swap the work delegation, change the piece of work. This I can only do if I know how each of my team member is performing. I have to measure their performance. It should not be a shock to me that after 2 months I realize, oh, this guy is not performing in my team. See, always create a happy environment. See, coding and programming and software engineering is not something like preparing a piece of cake or preparing some dishes in the kitchen. It's a creative work. I don't know why managers don't understand this nowadays. It's very creative. You should be having a peace of mind. You should be very happy. Then you can think of a good algorithm or a good pseudo code. So always create a very healthy and a happy and a transparent environment so that your team can nurture in that environment without any fear. If anybody is facing any problem, any issue, he can report, give a correct report, correct status to you, so that the bottlenecks can be resolved on time. Most of the times it happens that, suppose I am a team member, I will shy away from going to my manager and saying that, sir, I am not able to do this, or I am not good at this technology. because of the fear of rejection or whatever. So always create a fearless environment for driving any successful IT project. Invest some time and efforts and money even in motivating your team. Maintain their interest levels and dedication levels. Take them for team outing, team building activities. Say, I am not saying that you do that on the project time. You can take them on the weekends. Weekends are free. Okay. Or maybe after 6 o'clock when you do the one, because the client is paying for 8 hours. After 8 hours, what you do is not, client is not bothered about that. So team building activities are very, very important because they should also get very fresh. Because see, unless they are happy, they will not get the fresh ideas. They will not give good suggestions. And that will not improve the code quality. Because coding is all creativity. And for that you should be very happy and recharged. Mind should be charged. Now let's see some of the top reasons why the IT projects are failing, especially in the Asian countries. One is like inadequate skill set. See, sometimes nowadays it happens that I commit something to the client that I will do a project using the cloud computing technologies. Now I realize that in, say in Bangalore, cloud developers are not available, or it's very difficult to hire a cloud developer. So I should not commit on something which I cannot, which I know that, okay, this is a rare skill set. I'm just giving an example. So always try to identify in advance that whether you need a particular skill set, hire, interview and hire those resources, and then only take up the project challenge. Don't take up something which you cannot deliver and then have a loss of faith and permanently destroy the relationship with the client. Second reason is inadequate review. See, it's not about the code review only. Overall review, like peer-to-peer review, I review your code, you review my code. Okay. Normally we try to use some tools like find bugs, programming mistake detector, PMD. Okay. To some extent it does the review. But see, everything cannot be automated. Okay. You cannot bring a robot who will do your code review. It should be always a manual code review also. Because see, manually what you can do, no tool can do, remember. So if you don't invest your time and energy, suppose I am a project manager, I will keep 5% for code review in my project management activity. In SDLC, 5% will be kept for code review. Why? If a code is not properly reviewed, it is a disaster. It will lead to failure. Now the third thing is lack of understanding of specifications. See, most of the projects fail because we don't clearly understand what the client is saying and what he is wanting. Sometimes it happens that client himself does not know what he wants. But then only he is coming to me. See, I am a patient. I go to a doctor. See, if I know my disease, why I should go to a doctor? Because I myself don't know what is happening to me. That is why I go to a doctor. Doctor will diagnose me and tell me, Satyar, this is your problem, and not what you were thinking. Similarly, I have to tell to the client as a manager that, sir, this is what you want, and we will give that. So ask the right questions to the client. See, we all know how to ask questions, okay, but asking the right questions at the right time is important. Because we want to get some information from the client by asking the right questions. It can be by a questionnaire, by emails, by phone, whatever way, by taking an interview at the client location. Lack of appropriate procedures and standards. Most of the times we just say we are following the coding standards, but we don't follow actually the coding standards. We don't follow the SLA. We don't meet the SLA, the service level agreement. Okay, so it's very important from the beginning, make your team members, each of your team members understand that these are the procedures and the coding standards. This is the way how we will start the project and end the project. No ifs and no buts. So always set the procedures and the standards and follow them also. Make your team members follow them. You might face environment and configuration issues. See, most of the times we have hardware, software, network failures, which lead to project failures. So that is why we always say invest in infrastructure. Buy good hardware. I'm not saying buy a second-hand Chinese computer and then start a software company. It will never work. If you want to start a software company, get a new project, invest in the infrastructure, hardware, software, and the latest network. Lack of proper tools. See, sometimes we choose the wrong technology. Suppose I'm doing a project in Java. In the midway, I realized that if I would have chosen .NET, I would have by now completed the project successfully and delivered to the client. Client does not worry about .NET or Java. Like at the end, the speed, performance matters, and the quality. So always invest some time in the planning phase of the project. If you ask me this question, I will invest 13 to 15% in the planning phase. Somebody will say 10%, somebody will say 25%. It depends. For me, the standard is 13 to 15%. This is the industry standard. Research has shown. Invest in the planning phase and then plan what technologies you want to use, what tools you want to use. Make the right choice and then you will be happy. One wrong choice, you are gone. Similarly, the choice of wrong SDLC methodology. Why IT projects are failing in India? If you ask me, for the waterfall project, I choose agile. For the agile type of projects, I choose waterfall. I choose the wrong model. From the start, I am wrong, and then I suffer. So suppose understand the requirement of the client, understand the budget, time, scope, understand your strengths and weaknesses of your company. Okay, keeping everything in mind, then decide. Keeping the market conditions, the current state of technology, then decide whether you want test-driven development, TDD, agile, waterfall, semi-agile, semi-waterfall, prototype, what model you want to use. Inadequate input from the client. See, you cannot always say that you cannot blame the client that you have not given me the full inputs and that is why the project went fail. Okay, it is your mistake not to gather the entire information from the client. You might not have asked him. See, if you will not ask him, he will not give you the answer. You have to ask the right questions. You have to clarify all the requirements. Get all the inputs from the client. See, you can always say, boss, you are not giving me the input, I cannot start your project. Don't start the project without getting the adequate inputs. And then later on blame the client. So, lack of risk analysis and mitigation. See, most of the times what happens nowadays, we are doing risk management just in the name. Just like a PMP, risk management, we just do that in the name. We never invest time and efforts in actually analyzing the risk, the current risk, technical, business, functional, any risk or future risk which may come. What is the priority of each risk? How to mitigate each risk? What each risk can do to a client's business? How much impact they can do, the impact analysis. We don't do all this nowadays. It's very bad. See, there can be a risk which may even destroy the business of the client. It can lead to loss of, say 80% loss of revenues. So invest say 10 to 15% of your time in doing risk analysis and mitigation. It's very important, especially for a large project which have millions of dollars invested. If you are not very comfortable with risk management, hire a risk manager. There are separate people who do risk management only for IT industry. Lack of timely feedback from the client. See, most of the times we say that client is not giving the feedback because we are not showing the progress to the client. See, unless I show the progress to the client, how can he give the comment or the feedback? Okay, it's a recursive cycle. Show to the client, get the feedback, improve. Show to the client, get the feedback, improve. And then you will be successful. So always have constant feedback from the client. Don't keep him in the dark. Client should know at any point of time what is the state or the health of the project. Lack of security and scalability. See, if I am writing a project or a software, I complete it on time, good. I complete it within the budget, good. I meet all the requirements, basic functionalities, good. But if my project or the software is not scalable or not secured, it's all a waste. What is the point in developing Facebook.com if anybody can hack Facebook? So if a project is not secured nowadays, or if it is not scalable for future requirements, it is a waste. No matter if I develop it within the time or before time or in the less budget, whatever. So always keep security and scalability in mind. Because nowadays most of the projects are failing because they lack security and they lack scalability for the future. Lack of rigorous testing. We always say we have done the testing. I have my testing team which has 10 testers from IITs. That is not enough. See, not only manual testing, you have to do automated testing, unit testing, smoke testing, system integration. All the testing phases are very important. Testing should be really rigorous, not just in the word rigorous. You can do penetration testing. You can use tools like Fiddler. You can use JMOC technology, HTTP unit, JUnit, especially for website testing. So testing is very, very important. There is a very big important saying, a product which is not tested well is not a good product. See, if I make a car, I don't test the car on different type of roads, good road or bad road. What is the point in having that car? So testing should never be underestimated by any manager or architect. It is as important as development. Testing should be very, very rigorous. Nowadays, projects are failing because they are not tested well. You know about electronics. You say electronic item I buy from some grey market, it fails. Why? It is not tested well. Above all, lack of unity in your team can make or break a project. See, if your team is not synchronized, if one team member thinks in one way, other team member thinks in the opposite direction. See, I am not saying there should not be difference of opinion. Everybody has a right of opinion. Like, suppose I want to draw a use case diagram, or I want to draw a UER diagram. I give this task to each of my team member. Everybody will come with their own use case diagram, with their own ER diagram. Okay, then I will combine all the diagrams and see which is the best one and finalize or freeze the best one. So everybody should be in the limelight. Everybody should have a difference of opinion. But there should be no ego clashes. At the end, team should be united. See, first month, 1 month it is okay, differences are there. But in the second month, everybody should be united now. It's not like the whole year ends and my team is not united. People have differences. People don't understand each other's expectations. People are not comfortable talking to each other even. I've seen all this. See, like a cricket match, ICC or a World Cup, if India wins because unity is there. So unity in the team is very, very important, and it depends in the hands of manager. How he unites the team, how he sorts out the differences. See, there can be a team member from IIT or MIT, and there can be a team member from a private college. They have to work together on the same project. It's me as a manager who have to sort all the differences and make everybody happy and united. So that's end of my slide. Lot of things I wanted to say more, but because of lack of time, I could not keep in the slides. There are many, many more things apart from what we have discussed nowadays. Because see, just by knowing the bookish way of MBA in project management or PMP or any other certifications, Prince 2, or I'm not saying that certifications are not good, but at the end of the day, if there is no unity, if there is no common sense, everything is a waste. All degrees are waste. So be very practical, use your common sense at all times, and then drive your project to success. So if there are any questions, like, we can discuss.
Mr. Gaur, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Gaur, we have already
Yeah.
we have already given you the questions. If you have given the answers. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, I'll just see the questions.
mhm.
Okay, somebody has asked like, I agree that project management is all common sense, but still structured way of approaching all the phases will help me in improving the project performance. That is true. See, what I wanted to say, combine your common sense with the structured way of doing the things. See, every company has their own framework of doing the things. See, like you join any company, every company will provide you some templates to write a functional specification, to write a technical specification, to do the estimation. There are templates or formulas in the Excel sheet for everything. Every company has their own templates or the structured way of doing the things. But who will fill the templates? It's you. And while filling the templates, you should use your common sense. So do the things in the structured way only, waterfall model or agile model. Okay, use templates, use processes, but don't get carried away by them. At the end of the day, project management is only common sense and only common sense. See, one person has asked about the scope control. See, nowadays what happens that when we are writing the functional specification or the functional spec, we always list down what is in scope, what is out of scope. So as a manager or as an architect or as a lead, I have to be very clear what is in the current phase. Suppose nowadays the projects are normally 3 to 5 years. And the releases are in different phases, like phase 1, phase 2, every year there is a phase. So in the current phase, what is in scope and what is out of scope, I should keep in mind so that I don't get diverted or distracted. The moment I get distracted, it will lead to failure. So scope should be very well defined, the boundaries should be well defined. I will personally suggest test-driven development because test-driven development ensures me that I am within the boundary, within the scope. I don't deliver something or I don't write some piece of code which is not really needed by the client. I only do what is needed. Test-driven development I can use. So you should always define your boundaries, what is in the scope and what is out of scope for the current release. See, somebody has asked about risk management and project management. See, risk management is one of the items in the project management. Project management is everything from the start of the project till the end, successful completion. But risk management is analyzing all the type of risks, technical risk, business risk, functional, semi-functional, financial risk, any risk which your project can face, which might prove to be a bottleneck in the completion of a project. How to mitigate those risks? Like, see, every risk have to be given some priority. So focus on those risks first, which has a higher priority or which has more impact on the project health or the client's revenue. Okay, and then concentrate on those risks which have lesser priority or lesser impact. So it's very important to prioritize your risk, I will say. And see, there is no set formula for a risk. You can use a risk matrix. Every company nowadays has a risk template. You can identify the risk. You can give the priority number. You can give the impact. And you can give priority can be say medium, high, low, those type of things. So that's what I want to say. And it's not only in the IT field, I will say in the financial field, say we are financial risk managers. So it's very important to see the future, visualize the future and identify the risks. Don't underestimate any risk. Small or big, you have to list down that risk and try to mitigate or reduce its impact. See, normally you cannot completely remove a risk sometimes, but you can reduce the impact or reduce the likelihood of its occurrence so that the risk does not occur. The chances of occurrence is very less. You try to have some solution for that, have some backup for that. So I'll see some other questions like what are your recommendations for the automation software? See, I will recommend one software, Cruise Control, Hudson. Like they are for continuous integration. For automated testing, there are so many tools and softwares available. Okay, there are softwares like Anthill, Anthill, for integration and testing also. So you can automate your build. So you should try to use such softwares because the likelihood of efficiency increases. I will say the likelihood of not finding a bug decreases. See, manually you may skip a bug, but these tools are very, very efficient. They will find the bugs. So try to use these automation tools along with your manual review. I'm not saying don't do manual things. Do manual code review, do manual testing. Okay, do manual integration also. But use the tools also at the same time for double check. And nowadays in most of the projects, the testing is always automated. Integration is always automated using the tools. You can use Hudson, Cruise Control, Anthill, those type of tools. I'll see some other questions, like you can keep on typing the questions. See, if I am the manager, say I am a technical manager, and client is not aware of, say, a technology called cloud computing, and I know that cloud computing can really solve the problem of the client. See, what is the project? I'm trying to solve a problem, an old problem of a client, due to which the client is losing some business or losing some revenues. If I know, okay, cloud computing can make the life easy for the client, even if it leads to lesser revenues for me. Suppose if I use cloud computing, I will get less money from the client. So I should not be selfish that, okay, I'll not use cloud computing because that will generate less revenue for me. Because see, client is always I should always give a long-term solution and maintain a long-term relationship with the client. In the future, when the client realizes that I recommended cloud computing, and because of which I gained less, but the client gained more, the client will be more than happy. He will recommend me more projects. He will give me more future business. So as a project manager or a technical architect, I have to see what best technology can be used so that client's money is saved, not that I get more money. See, if I save client's money, I'll gain the client's confidence. And remember, once you lose the confidence in the software industry, you are gone. If I am a startup, one client I lose, it's like a black mark on me. So always remember, give the right suggestions to the client in terms of technologies and frameworks in order to save the time and money for the client. So I'll see some other questions. Somebody has asked about how many testers should I keep if I have, say, X% for development. See, there is no particular thumb rule or a ratio. Google may have a different ratio. Amazon may have a different ratio of developers to testers. And sometimes what happens nowadays, if I am using test-driven development, the coder is a tester himself. And coder is most of the times the best tester also. Because I know my code, I can test it well. So nowadays what happens, if I write a module, parallelly I will write a JUnit test case also, and I'll do the unit testing on my own. So testing and coding is always parallel nowadays. I should not depend on some tester to test it for me. See, tester, they can do the QA efforts, they can do integration testing, system testing using the tools like Mercury, LoadRunner, WinRunner, all those things. But I think every developer should be a tester also in one way, because he knows his codes more better than anybody else. So I will try to maintain, say, a ratio of, say, 10 developers with 3 testers. I think that should do well. But it depends on project to project. See, suppose if my project has only 10 testing scenarios, My test plan is very small. The testing scenarios are very less. I may not need many testers. But if my project has a lot of testing scenarios, then I have to hire more people. So for that I have to write a test plan. I have to list down all possible type of test cases, positive, negative, everything. How complex each test case is. See, I may have only 10 test cases, but each test case is very, very complex. So then I need more testers. So it's like that. So you should be very intelligent as a manager, that how many testers and how many developers you should need to maintain in your team. And whether you need a combo, I mean a developer come tester, one man show. That is also there. So I think I have answered like most of the questions, and so from here, like I'll see if something else is there. Some other interesting questions is there. No, I think all the questions are like more or less interrelated. So I'm done from my side, like, and thanks a lot for joining this unique webinar. Because at the end of the day, every software developer is like a project manager, and every project manager should be like a software developer. They should be always gel with each other. So every manager should complement the developer, developer should complement the manager. It should be always a win-win situation, because everybody is a team member at the end of the day, and the team is successful, then only a project is successful. So everybody should be in the limelight. And from that, I close this webinar, and wish you all the best, and hope these tips and tricks will help you, and you will really implement them in your day-to-day activities.
I'm really thankful to Mr. Gaur for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all.